Yes, sir. No, they are ready, sir. I think you are raising that almost very late when I can see the setup is ready. But but the engineer wants to ask in advance. Okay, we are ready now. You can start.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. Um, my presentation is in 4 parts. There is the introduction and the implications of the 2024 budget on the ministry's targets, and these are the targets that are outlined in our budget for 2024. The impact of the 2024 budget on our SMEs, and then I'll end with a conclusion. As a way of introduction, I'll just highlight on SMEs' contribution to economic development. SMEs are one of the key drivers for poverty reduction and improvement of the quality of life for households due to their potential to create wealth and jobs. According to the World Bank SME Finance Report of 2022, and this is world over, SMEs account for the majority of businesses worldwide. They represent about 90% of businesses and more than 50% of employment worldwide. When we bring in the formal SMEs, they contribute up to 40% of the national income in emerging economies. Research has indicated that 4 out of 5 jobs created in any economy, 4 are created by SMEs. So this clearly demonstrates the significant role that SMEs play in economic development and job creation. In the case of Zambia, SMEs contribute 70% of GDP and 88% of employment, and they account for 97% of all businesses, and therefore making a significant share of domestic and export earnings and providing a large share of income to the majority of the working population. However, in spite of the contributions of SMEs to the growth of the Zambian economy, their full potential is yet to be tapped into due to numerous challenges that impede their growth and development. And so what are the challenges that our SMEs are facing? And these are the challenges that we are trying to address through our budget and our annual work plan that we are going to develop for 2024. The first challenge that our SMEs are facing is limited access to affordable finance. We are all aware that the interest rates that are charged by our commercial banks and micro financing schemes are quite high, and most of the SMEs cannot afford them. But added to that are the conditions that have been set by our banks, such as the requirements for them to meet the collateral requirements. The second challenge is the multiplicity of licenses or statutory regulations that raise the cost of doing business. I can give a very good example. An SME in Kalabo or in Mongo who wants to set up a lodge will be required to apply for a tourism license from the Ministry of Tourism, and the nearest place where they can lodge in their application and be issued a license is Livingstone. So they have to travel all the way from Western Province to Livingstone. There are definitely costs associated with that, travel, accommodation, and the like. If they are operating in liquor, they are selling liquor at their lodge, they will be required to apply for a liquor license from the local authority. They will be required to apply for a public health license from the local authority. Another license is the license from the fire department. So you can see that there are all these licenses, multiple licenses that they have to apply for, which increase the cost of doing business. The other challenge is the limited access to foreign markets, and this is mostly due to failure by the products that are made by our SMEs to meet the international standards that have been set for the products to be sold in the international markets. There's the issue of poor uptake of technology with a lack of innovation, and thus low productivity. Productivity among our SMEs is very, very low, and this is because the technology that they are using to produce their goods and services is still inferior. There's weak entrepreneurship culture. The failure for most of our SMEs is quite high, and this is due to poor entrepreneurship culture, limited knowledge about financing, leadership, and management. There's inadequate infrastructure to support the SME growth. Recently, we've focused so much on providing infrastructure, road infrastructure, to increase access or improve access for SMEs to markets. But I think I would bring another dimension to this. If you look at the areas where our SMEs are operating from, there is literally no infrastructure or decent infrastructure where they can carry out their businesses. Take a drive around Kalingalinga or Garden, you see all the SMEs that are involved in metal fabrication, door manufacturing, just operating by the roadside within the housing community, posing a risk, posing a danger to the people within the locality. And then finally, it's a issue. So what we're trying to do as a ministry to address this, we've embarked on developing industrial yards. These are facilities where our SMEs can go in and carry out their businesses, but also provide a facility where we can train them. So they are also operating as incubation centers where we can incubate our SMEs, but also providing markets where they can sell their merchandise once they've manufactured it. Then the last challenge is a large informal sector among the SMEs that competes unfavorably with the formal SMEs. Informality among the SMEs is quite high, and this is due to the high cost of doing business once they become formal, though they would rather continue to operate as informal SMEs. So given the above challenges, a national budget that deliberately targets stimulating the growth and development of SMEs would greatly help SMEs overcome the challenges, attain their full potential, and be able to meaningfully contribute to the much needed socio-economic development of the country. So what are the ministry's targets in the 2024 budget? First of all, I wish to indicate that in the 2024 fiscal year, we've been allocated 533 million. And out of this, 40 million is for personal emoluments, 40.9 million to be precise. 60.2 million is for recurrent departmental charges from headquarters, provinces, and the districts. Then 391 million, or roughly 392, is earmarked for the Citizen Economic Empowerment Fund. And then 35 million is a grant to CEC to enable them meet their operations. And then the Cooperative College is receiving 5 million.
Just a moment, you can switch off your mic.
I'm a bit lost. It appears our witness is reading from a different scripture with what we've been provided for.
Okay.
The information that I have here, what he's talking about now is not here.
It's the same one, sir.
Same one?
Yes. Yeah. No, it's the same one.
What did they ask?
On that part.
It's not there.
Your mic, one of them. Yeah. You can continue.
And with these estimates, what will be the focus of the ministry in terms of promoting the development and growth of SMEs? One, we'll continue the training of provincial cooperatives and entrepreneurship development officers so that in turn they can build the capacity of our SMEs at the local level. We'll facilitate business linkages, joint ventures, collaboration, and partnership with investors for our SMEs. We will undertake the cooperative regulation and standards, including inspections and arbitration. We will promote the Rural Enterprise Development Program. As you are aware, our SMEs in the rural areas have been disadvantaged. In terms of business development services, the focus has been on SMEs that are in the urban locations. So we'll make a deliberate program to support or promote the SMEs in the rural areas, establishment of a national database for profiling SMEs, but this will also help the ministry to track the progression of SMEs. How are they progressing from a micro to a small, and then to a medium, and eventually a larger enterprise. Business development and facilitation of access to markets will be another area of focus. So what will be the implications of the 2024 budget on the ministry's targets? Firstly, the ministry will continue to provide empowerment funds through the citizen economic empowerment. I'm sure you've noticed that the government has significantly increased the allocation to the empowerment funds from 2021 budget. In 2022, there was an allocation of about 362 million. And in 2024, this has again increased to 391. And this is an increase from 25 million to the range of 300 plus million. So this is quite a quantum leap. However, I wish to indicate that by June 2023, the CEC was sitting with more than 30 billion worth of loan applications from the Empowerment Fund. And clearly this demonstrates that the 391 million that will be allocated in 2024 will not be sufficient to meet the financial needs of our SMEs. There's quite a huge appetite among our SMEs to access our empowerment fund, and the reason is the loans that are offered by CEC. If you look at the interest rates are quite affordable. It's 12% interest, so a lot of them would prefer to access loans from CEC rather than go to the commercial banks. The second issue in terms of implication of the budget on our SMEs is technology and innovation. These are key ingredients for the startup and growth of our SMEs, but currently innovation and the uptake of technology among our SMEs is very, very low. And this has resulted in a very small number of SMEs creating innovative business concepts and products which would attract investors. Just during the month of September, towards the end of September, there was an event called Slash, which was organized by our ministry and the Ministry of Technology, working in collaboration with the Embassy of Finland, where we brought in investors from Finland and the rest of the world to come and interact with our startups. But their mode of interaction and the entry requirement for them was for them to come up with an innovative business concept. And based on this innovative business concept, we were linking them up with investors so that they could invest in their innovative business concepts, which would allow them to begin to operate as a business and generate whatever products or services they envisage to do. In order to mitigate the poor uptake of technology and lack of innovation, low productivity, and lower entrepreneurship, the ministry will, in collaboration with business development service providers, facilitate skills development for SMEs so that they are able to operate their businesses competently and competitively. A sum of 5,546,000 has been allocated in next year's budget to facilitate the enhancement of skills of our SMEs to uptake technology. More specifically, the ministry will ensure that the SMEs have access to business development services, and we have set targets in our budget. Firstly, we'll make sure that we link 150 SMEs to markets. We'll also make sure that we promote joint ventures with MSMEs and investors. We will promote 500 rural enterprises, and this will be done through the Rural Enterprise Development Program. We'll also link up 400 enterprises to financials. Furthermore, we'll ensure that 80 cooperatives are linked to off-takers. We'll also facilitate the provision of management and entrepreneurship training to 3,600 cooperatives. We target to register 3,000 new cooperatives as a way of making them formal, and we'll conduct 1,300 sensitization meetings to enhance product quality. What is the impact of the 2024 budget allocation on our SMEs? Overall, our SMEs will benefit from the 2024 budget allocation of 392 million under CEC. This directly falls under our ministry. But however, there are other empowerment funds that sit under different ministries. The first one is the empowerment to youth and women under CDF. There is 20% allocated to youths and women, and based on the 2024 budget allocation to each constituency, there will be 960 million which will be available for youths and women to access through the CDF. And then under FISIP, there will be 8.5 billion that has been allocated under FISIP for our small-scale farmers. These are again our SMEs. Under the Youth Empowerment Fund, there is 31.2 million which our youth SMEs can access. So in total, there will be about in excess of 10 billion which will be available to our SMEs across all sectors. So this is quite huge, and we are expectant that it will have a significant impact on our SMEs in terms of their development and growth of their businesses. Maybe let me just emphasize a little bit on the 392 million empowerment fund under CEC. This amount is supposed to support our SMEs to enter into viable businesses, and this is based on a bankable business plan that they'll submit, and then they are allocated the monies. The role of the ministry here will be to continue to provide capacity to our SMEs so that our SMEs can prepare bankable business plans, which plans will be approved by the CEC. The reason for most of us SMEs failing to access financing from CEC is due to the poor quality of their business plans. So our role is to continue to build their capacity so that they continue to present bankable business plan which will enable them to access financing. I think I'll go to the conclusion. In concluding, I wish to indicate, Honorable Chair and members of the committee, that we do currently have many initiatives to empower SMEs which sit under different ministries. I could give examples, as I had earlier on alluded to. We have the Youth Empowerment Fund, we have the Constituency Development Fund, we have the Farmer Input Support Program, and then we have the Citizen Economic Empowerment Fund. These empowerment initiatives are uncoordinated and in most cases target the same beneficiaries, and this leads to duplication of efforts. It is also very difficult for government to monitor which beneficiary is receiving which empowerment fund under which ministry. So there is a lot of duplication and there's a lot of coordination which needs to be addressed. And the one way we can address this is by developing a mechanism for the coordination of empowerment initiatives and the development of an integrated management system. One way, and this has been the thinking in the ministry, is can we come up with one empowerment fund, and then using resource allocation, we allocate the resources to the different SMEs that fall under different ministries, but let the fund be housed within one institution or one ministry or one entity. Linked to that would ensure that the empowerment fund will develop an integrated database or management information system, wherein all the SMEs that are beneficiaries will be housed, and it will be very easy for the ministry or for the government or different government entities to monitor progressively. For instance, how are SMEs that are receiving empowerment funds developing? Are they migrating or progressing from a micro to a small SME, and from a small SME to a medium SME, and then eventually they become larger enterprises? Because this way, this is the only way we can track whether our interventions are actually bearing fruit. But for as long as we have fragmented databases, it will be very difficult for us to monitor whether collectively our empowerment funds are bearing the desired results. Then regarding the numerous empowerment funds provided for in the 2024 budget, though not sufficient to cater for all the financing needs of SMEs, we feel as a ministry that it will make available financing, affordable financing, that the SMEs can access. Not all of them will access this financing, but at least a good number of SMEs will access the financing. The ministry therefore ensure that a conducive environment exists for SMEs to operate profitably and sustainably, so that they can contribute to economic growth and create the much needed decent jobs for improved livelihoods in the country. I thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the committee.
Okay, so thank you, Acting PS, for your submission. What we'll do is, largely we have noted that before we do that, we have noted that largely your presentation in terms of the PowerPoint has a lot of gaps together with what the document that you brought. That's why I had given you just about 20 minutes, because this one just 4 pages. So what you do is please ensure that you submit that PowerPoint presentation with our colleagues, so that then we have the abridged document. So I've taken note of Honorable Mavenga, Honorable Mavumba, and also Honorable Mulewa. Honorable Mavenga, Honorable Mavumba, and Honorable Mulewa. In that order.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. I represent a very, very rural area, Mwawezi constituency. And from what you have presented, especially those challenges, it appears this empowerment, this is for a certain group of people, not the group in my constituency, in my rural area, because you don't even have a bank. And you didn't even mention about any system to help those people in rural areas, because they can't afford to travel to Saka to come and queue up and start all sorts of bureaucracy. To them, they even feel that it's easier for the camel to go through the eye of the needle rather than getting this CEC money. And in your presentation, you haven't even told us how much you have dispersed in terms of capacity building, in terms of money for the loans for those people in rural areas. I don't know whether there's anything that you can do, because to me, CEC doesn't seem to have an impact on the economy itself for our rural people. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam.
Chair, for me, to the acting PS, on your page page 3 of your presentation, and in your oral submission, you recognize that we've got these empowerment programs that are sitting all over within the government system. And obviously, in your view, you have alluded to the fact that the best option would have been to house all these programs under one particular roof. Now, given that you have recognized that there is that particular weakness within our various empowerment programs, what is it that your ministry, what leadership are you providing? Because you're supposed to be the lead ministry in all these conversations. So what is it that you are doing to ensure that government realizes the need that we need these empowerment programs to be housed under one roof, and hopefully maybe probably under your ministry? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Murebwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I have a big problem in trying to reconcile the presentation with what is obtaining on the ground. I have a lot I can say, but I'll put it in a nutshell. Acting PS, there is, you've mentioned on page 2 here, second last paragraph, how you intend to connect the rural enterprises and so on. This sounds to be more academic than a reality. And when we go on the ground, what people want to see is what they can actualize. We have this CDF included in the budget, and what I think is unfortunate bit is the council has been given to manage or to be the vehicle to deliver this CDF. So as members of parliament, we are in touch with the people at the grassroots level. So there is this situation where the CDF in the hands of the council, the ones that seem to be demanding or directing how the CDF will work are cadres. They will go and bulldoze their way in the councils, so the councils will dance to their music. Meanwhile, we have young people that would have graduated from the skills training centers with skills in carpentry, joinery, metal fabrication, bricklaying, and we have projects, uncountable projects that we all know about. We now have the desks that have to be made for all schools, which would have sat squarely had this fund been put in the hands of the MP, so that the youths in our areas can easily be linked to these projects that are coming up as a result of CDF. How do you think this is going to synchronize with what you are presenting from your ministry? Thank you.
Thank you. Acting PS, you can respond to those.
Thank you very much.
You can switch on your mic.
Thank you very much, members of the committee, for your interventions. I'll start with the first one. Is there a system to support SMEs in rural areas? I think I did mention in my presentation that the ministry is currently developing a rural enterprise development program, and this was out of realization that in terms of providing business development services to our SMEs, the focus was on urban SMEs and our rural SMEs were neglected. So we are developing a program that is tailored towards providing business development services to our SMEs. So this is where we will train our SMEs on entrepreneurship, financial management, how do they conform to the standards that are demanded by the domestic and the international markets, but most importantly, linking them up to financing and the markets as well. So this is a program that we are currently developing. The program was launched by the Minister of Small and Medium Enterprise last year in November, and currently we are developing the whole program, and it will be piloted in 7 districts to start with, and then in 2025 we hope to roll it out to the rest of the country. So that's a program that is aimed at promoting the growth and development of SMEs in the rural areas. The second question was on how much has been disbursed from CEC. As at June 2023, 265 million had been disbursed to SMEs through the Marketeer Booster Program, and then the Gusulu loans and the conventional loans based on the products that the Citizen Economic Empowerment Commission is promoting. So 269 million as at June had been disbursed, but much more has been disbursed, because I'm aware that during the last 3 months the Citizen Economic Empowerment has been disbursing monies to the so we can give an updated current status in terms of how much has been disbursed, but it's certainly much more than 269 million. We have empowerment programs that are scattered all over ministries, and what is the solution to this? In our view as a ministry, the solution to this, as I had indicated in my presentation, would be to come up with one empowerment fund. Then using resource allocation, you can allocate the monies to the different ministries that have beneficiaries. But what is important is to make sure that you have one database that is going to speak to all the beneficiaries that are benefiting from that empowerment fund. And that way you are going to get rid of the duplication, because you have an SME that is receiving financing under CDF. The same SME is receiving financing under FISI. And the same SME will probably be receiving financing under CEC and the Youth Empowerment Fund. But if we have a database that speaks to all the SMEs in the different sectors, we'll be able to identify which SME was supported under this program, and that will be able to spread the resources equitably among all our SMEs. In the interim, the solution to addressing the duplication that is going on is to come up with a coordinating framework, and this is what we are trying to do as a ministry. As a Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise, we are developing a coordinating framework where we'll be able to coordinate all the different ministries that are involved in empowering SMEs. But ultimately, what is important is to make sure that we have one empowerment fund. But in the interim, we are developing a coordinating framework. And one tool that we are going to use to make sure that we coordinate our empowerment programs is a database that I'm talking about. Developing that database that will speak to all the SMEs that fall under different sectors into one, and linking it up to all the different ministries that are supporting SMEs. The disconnect between rural SMEs and what is happening under CDF. As a ministry responsible for SMEs, our role is to make sure that we build the capacity. We first of all identify the SMEs in the constituencies, and then we build the capacities of those SMEs so that they can competitively apply for those resources. So working together with National Council for Construction, ZPPA, and our business development service providers, we've been going into the constituencies. NCC will build capacity in our SMEs in the constituencies on how to conform to the requirements of NCC in case they have to bid for civil works projects. ZPPA is building the capacity of our SMEs on how to conform to the ZPPA requirements when they are tendering for these works. Then through our business development service providers, we are giving them knowledge in entrepreneurship, financial management, leadership, and management, so that they can run their projects as a business and in a prudent manner. So that's our entry point into CDF. I think our main interest is to make sure that we identify these SMEs and then we build their capacities so that they can bid for these works that are being advertised in the constituencies under the Empowerment Fund. Yeah.
Okay, Acting PS, thank you very much for coming to appear before the committee, Cap 12 of the laws of Zambia in terms of the provision of for the immunity. We'll also end here. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you. You can now advertise on Parliament Television and Parliament Radio. For more information, call 0977 854102 or 0977 536487. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
Broadcast times for Parliament Television has been extended from 0830 hours to 22 hours from Monday to Friday. Tune in every weekday from Monday to Friday on Parliament Television. Parliament Television, bringing Parliament closer to you.
And you're welcome. Thank you. PS, you are appearing before the expanded planning and budgeting committee, where we are doing a consideration of the 2024 national budget as pronounced by the Minister of Finance and National Planning. And we're happy that you have found time to be with us this morning as requested. So what we'll do is let's start with introductions. You introduce your team, and then I'll allow the members of the committee to follow in that order.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start by myself. My name is Mambohama Undu. I'm the Permanent Secretary in charge of administration at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And with me, I'm accompanied by...
Good morning. My name is Muyamba Ngongwem, Chief Planner.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sylvia Kasungami Masavo, Principal Planner from the Ministry of Local Government.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Constance Musonda, Senior Accountant from the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you. Honourable members, let's start with my far left, Honourable Mlunda.
Good morning, Chair, morning witness. My name is Amulunda Darius, Member of Parliament for Siavonga.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, witness. I'm Engineer Rafa Mabenga, Member of Parliament for Mwawezi constituency in Western Province, member of this committee.
Good morning, local government. I'm retired Brigadier General Morgan Istola. I represent the people of Kaoma Central in Western Province. I come here as Chair, National Security and Foreign Affairs. You're most welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, local government. My name is Newton Samakai, Member of Parliament for Munlunga constituency in the Northwestern Province. I'm also Chairman of Local Governance, Housing and Chiefs Affairs.
Good morning, Mr. Local Government. My name is Konos Munji, a Member of Parliament for the Kwanda constituency and a member of the Planning and Budget Committee.
Thank you. Honourable Mandandi.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good morning, PS and your team. I'm Mandandi Kalie, Member of Parliament for Sioma constituency. Thank you.
Good morning, witness. Good morning, Chair. My name is Ronald Kech Totera. I'm Member of Parliament for Pambashi and a member of this expanded committee for planning and budget by virtue of chairing one of the dedicated committee on youth, sport and child affairs.
Good morning, witness. My name is Harry Kambon, Member of Parliament for Kaloma Central. You are welcome. Thank you.
Good morning, PS and your team. I'm Frank Simushi, Member of Parliament for Skongo constituency and a member of the Planning and Budgeting Committee.
Good morning, PS. Mwaba Shikenkulukusa is my name. Member of Parliament for Katua constituency and a member of the Planning and Budgeting Committee.
Good morning, PS. My name is Jamba Majila, MP for Mwembe.
Good morning, PS. I'm Jeff Mureba, Member of Parliament for Kafula Futa constituency, the land that flows with milk and honey. You're welcome.
Good morning, PS. My name is Kalalwe Mkosa, Member of Parliament for Chinsali and member of the Planning and Budget Committee.
Chair, thank you. PS and your team, good morning. My name is Mijelo Kasauta, Member of Parliament for Wengwa constituency, Monze District from Southern Province.
Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members. Good morning, local government. My name is Anta Dumumba, Member of Parliament for Kantanj in Mufra District. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, PS and your team. My name is David Mabumba, MP for Mwanse constituency in Wapra Province and a member of the Planning and Budgeting Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My name is Brian Kambita, Member of Parliament for Zambezi East constituency, Chairperson of the Committee on Parastatal Bodies.
Good morning, colleagues from the Ministry of Local Government. My name is Dr. Kalila, Member of Parliament for Lukulu East, basically Lukulu in Western Province. Thank you.
Thank you. PS, also we do have, as you see, our colleagues at the back here. Most of them are from the Parliamentary Budget Office, which is being led by Mr. Kateshi. And also we have got Mr. Chimboy here from the Office of the Clerk helping us with this work. In terms of of the laws of Zambia, PS, you have the immunity as and when you are appearing before a committee or parliament such as this one, meaning that whatever you say whilst appearing before this committee, that which you say cannot be used against you in any court of law. So take advantage of that provision, and also just to indicate that the same provision, however, works against you in an event that you were to deliberately mislead the committee. I doubt that will be the case. And lastly, also just to indicate that we are live, both on Parliament, TV and radio. So the people who gave us this mandate following the proceedings. We have your submission, PS, which is about 5 pages. And I want to believe you can do justice within, say, 20 minutes maximum if you need all of it. And so that we can allow more time for the members of this committee to ask questions of clarifications. So let's start. You take us through your introductions, sorry, not your presentation, and then after that we'll give time to the members to ask questions. Okay, PS, you can start.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning once again to the Chair and the honourable members of Parliament. My report, as indeed outlined, is not very long. It's just about 5 pages. I'll start with just run through an introductory part of it, look at what our statutory mandate is, the implications of the 2024 budget on local government administration. Then I'll delve into economic transformation and job creation agenda before going to the human and social development component. Then I'll look at sustainable environment before I delve into good governance vis-a-vis environment. Then I also touch on the Constituency Development Fund in view of the 2024 budget estimates before I go to the other issues. And as per practice, you know, I'll go to a conclusion which is at 7.0. So I'll quickly start with our introduction. You know, this memorandum is submitted to provide comments by our ministry to the expanded Planning and Budgeting Committee on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year ended 31st December 2024. And this is pursuant to Section 42, subsection 2 of the Planning and Budgeting Act number 1 of 2020. In terms of our mandate as a ministry, ours is promoting decentralized local governance system in order to contribute to sustainable socio-economic development and facilitate equitable access to public services. So in there we also have delivery of municipal services. In terms of implementation of the 2024 budgets on the local government administration, our submission is that the budget, whose themed unlocking economic potential, is set to incentivize us or act as an incentive for the ministry's endeavor to facilitate equitable access to public resources and promote decentralization. Chair, I move on to 3.1, which is economic transformation and job creation agenda. Under this particular subheading, our submission as a ministry is that we do acknowledge the importance of developing the transport network to facilitate transportation. And in this regard, the ministry will upgrade and rehabilitate urban and feeder roads and infrastructure space to provide for trading. So we are alive to the fact that within the ministry there has been a provision to say so many kilometers of roads will be worked on, and these will be done through our ministry. The ministry also notes that the budget has prioritization of information and communication technology through access to the internet and mobile connectivity, as well as the use of electronic services for improved service delivery. In this regard, Chair, the ministry will enhance the use of digital application systems across the CDF value chain to promote the management and utilization of funds. And some of the key incentives that are contained therein include the development of the CDF dashboard. We'll also be looking at the integrated CDF information system. We're also working on internet connectivity and website development for local authorities across the country. It is our desire as a ministry that we can actually leverage on ICT so that we deliver a bit more better and efficiently to the people of this country. Chair, under Human and Social Development, as a ministry, we take note of the budget's focus on improved education, skills development, health, and access to water and sanitation. With the increased allocation of resources, the ministry will leverage on CDF for enhanced delivery of school desks and classroom spaces. We also focus on maternity annexes and water and sanitation facilities in public spaces in line with the policy directives. You may be aware, Chair, that there is a policy position to ensure that all schools must have adequate desks, and there's also a position to state that all public places must have waterborne toilets, and they need to have maternity annexes. So these are some of the issues which we will focus on as a ministry. Further, Chair, the ministry will also facilitate the development of water points in rural areas to enhance access to clean water for our rural communities. So on that score, we are talking of sinking of the number of boreholes through the Constituency Development Fund, and where practical, if we can invest in dams, we shall encourage that a few dams can be worked on. I move on to sustainable environment. Under this, we're saying that we are cognizant of the budget provision towards interventions that will lead to positive outcomes for the environment, and acknowledge the importance of localizing these interventions at district and ward level. In 2024, Chair, the ministry will undertake the following. 1, enhance local interventions towards resilience and adaptation to environmental challenges such as climate change. Secondly, enhance solid waste management by providing adequate policy framework and facilitating local authority capacity and provision of equipment. Chair, you may be aware that for this year we've already kickstarted this process, and we have provided some equipment to Chunga landfill. As you may be aware, Lusaka is one of the biggest generators of waste. So we thought that if we begin this process in Lusaka, we will set the tone for the rest of the country. And you may also be aware that this is a continuous activity, and the President, His Excellency, also pronounced himself on the need to manage solid waste. Chair, thirdly, we are saying we will leverage on integrated development plans to ensure protection of ecologically sensitive areas. Planning, Chair, is very key, and it's our hope that we will map the country appropriately through these integrated development plans, so that as we are planning development, it will be structured and it will not disturb our environment. Fourthly, Chair, we shall ensure effective and efficient use of the disaster component of the CDF to address disasters which may occur, such as flooding, which could be anticipated because the rains are showing indications that very soon they'll be upon us, Chair. Under 3.4, Chair, we are looking at the good governance environment, and as a ministry, we note the focus on ensuring good governance through decentralization. This provision, Chair, will allow the ministry to support decentralization processes by facilitating capacity building, ensuring effective budgeting and efficient utilization of resources, facilitating increase in on-source revenue for local authorities, providing policy guidance for sustainable debt management. So those are some of the areas which we'll be looking at as our contribution towards creating an environment of good governance. The key issue being that of decentralization, and therefore having as many people at a local level participating in the decision-making process. Chair, I'm now at 3.5, which is the Constituency Development Fund in view of the 2024 budget estimates. Chair, we're saying that government has identified that the CDF is a tool which can be used to attain development, reduce poverty, and enhance job creation through citizen participation at the local level. Having administered the expanded CDF chair for the last 2 years, the ministry has made significant strides towards accomplishing of these objectives. Chair, you will note that not so long ago we did mention that in excess of 353,000 desks, for instance, which were procured or manufactured or produced through the CDF, and we're of the view that this has helped a number of SMEs out there in terms of job creation, whilst supporting our education sector. Chair, the proposed increase in the allocation of the 2024 CDF to 30.6 million per constituency as compared to the allocation for 2023, which is sitting at 28.3 per constituency, will greatly enhance government's efforts in facilitating socio-economic transformation and citizens' participation in decision-making at the local level. Chair, I move on to 3.6, how the proposed measures and allocations are likely to impact service delivery in our ministry. Chair, the ministry takes cognizance of the resources allocated by government functions to foster economic transformation by building economic resilience, protecting the vulnerable, decentralizing some central government functions in order to improve service delivery. I move on to 3.7, where we're looking at the increase in the allocation for transfers to local authorities. And Chair, we take note that the CDF has been increased by 8.2%. The Local Government Equalization Fund has been increased by 8.2%, and grant in lieu of rates is sitting at 88.8%. So there's a proposal that these resources be increased from the 2023 position to by these percentages that I've just mentioned. Chair, further to enhance service delivery, the ministry notes the policy directive to convert the local equalization fund into a recurrent fund, 100% recurrent fund, as opposed to what could be obtaining now, where there's 80-20, 80 being recurrent and 20% being available for as a capital component. This, in our view, Chair, will increase available resources for local authorities to meet their statutory obligations and other operational requirements. Improved operations, Chair, will in turn increase the capacity of local authorities to deliver services. That is the focus which we have, is service delivery, so we thought that it would be opportune indeed. That's why we're happy with this particular proposed or policy direction which has been put forth. I move on to 3.9, Chair, the impact of the local government transfers. Chair, the policy change with regards to local government transfers will have the following impact. Firstly, we are likely to see improved operations for local authorities, thereby increasing service delivery. There will be increased availability of resources, ultimately even for capital projects. There will be increased capabilities of local authorities to meet their obligations, including payment of salaries and other statutory obligations. Chair, we are also anticipating an increased capacity of local authorities to dismantle arrears and domestic debt. Further, Chair, the road network in 2024 is expected to be enhanced by the continued procurement of equipment by various constituencies through the CDF. I did mention, Chair, much earlier to say that in the budget, there are a number of kilometers which have been targeted in terms of feeder roads, in terms of urban roads. So we remain positive that with the equipment which is being bought through the CDF, through various local authorities, we will see a particular improvement in terms of the road network, particularly in the rural parts of our country. I move on to 4.0, Chair, which is the prioritization of ICT and integrated development plans and monitoring and evaluation. Chair, the budget prioritizes the use of information communication technology. It also looks at integrated development planning and monitoring and evaluation to enhance implementation of programs and projects. The ministry has therefore allocated resources to these priority areas to facilitate improved service delivery, both at central and at local government level. So this is the realization that we need to combine not just ICT, but we also need to plan and plan ahead so that we can deliver a bit more efficiently or much better than we have been delivering in the past as a ministry and indeed as a country. I move on to 5.0, Chair, which is interim strategies to resolve impediments in absorption of the CDF. The ministry, Chair, has endeavored to institute measures aimed at enhancing access and utilization of the CDF. Some of the measures include, but are not limited to, the following: enhanced community sensitization for improved community access to CDF. Chair, we are aware that in some areas there are still concerns or there are still questions which are being asked in terms of what CDF is and what CDF is doing. And we are of the view that as a ministry, we must continue to sensitize the public so that we raise more awareness, Chair. Secondly, we are looking at continuous capacity building of local authorities in planning, budgeting, procurement, financial management, and monitoring and evaluation. And I may also mention, Chair, that we have, as a country, we are being supported through the Zambia Devolution Support Program, which aims at dealing with some of these issues. So we remain confident that other than the budgetary provisions, we will also have external support which will really enhance service delivery. Chair, strengthening capacity of WDCs in community is also important, and engagement for identification of projects is cardinal as we look at strategies to resolve the impediments related to absorption of the CDF. Chair, we are also looking at strengthening human resource capacity of local authorities through the recruitment of key personnel in the planning and engineering departments. You will not, Chair, that I am making suggestions on what has been, I'm alluding to what we are doing, and I'm also of the view that in as much as before we had received reports to say the absorption rate of the CDF was not particularly high, it is our considered view that we should not focus on the absorption rate. What we should focus on is the commitments that are being made by each constituency, because when you make the commitments, you then have to go on and procure, and there are necessary processes that we need to go through before we utilize these resources. So if we focus our attention on the absorption rate, we may end up misleading ourselves and actually barring an activity which is responding to our needs. So I just thought that I make that point, Chair. I move on to 6.0, where we're looking at any other relevant information to the committee. Chair, the ministry notes the budget's emphasis on the need to dismantle debt and is working to provide policy guidance to local authorities on debt liquidation. Through the local authority budget guidelines, the ministry has guided that all local authorities should provide for liquidation of statutory liabilities and determine interventions for debt reduction. So what is happening at central government is also being translated to the local governance system, in that we all must work as a team, we all must work as a collection. If central government is saying we should not accumulate any more further debt, it's a similar thing which should happen at the local authority. So we will send out a core circular to the local authorities to that effect. So essentially we are looking at management and better management of our resources, and also taking responsibility as officers in ensuring that what we plan for does not just remain on paper, but actually translates into results. Chair, as I conclude, I would like to state that the budget will have a positive impact on the operations of the ministry and the local government in general. Chair, I submit.
PS, thank you very much for the submission. Yeah, quite on time, 20 minutes. Honourable members, it's time now for questions. Okay, let me just take note of hands. Okay. Okay, all of them, that's it. Okay. Okay, let's start with you, Honorable Samakai. So what would these honorable members, one question per person, number one, and be very brief. As you have noted there, this is a very interesting witness. We all have interest in it. So one question per person, be brief so that we accommodate as much as possible for the others to also ask questions. So we'll go this route. Honorable Samakai, Honorable Chitotela, and then Honorable Simushi, in that order. Then I'll come to the right. Honorable Samakai.
Chair, you allow me to squeeze two questions in
only one
sentence.
Only one question, sir. If you do two, then I'll ask the witness to respond to one particular one. So just let's go by that. We'll give you another chance.
Just for his information. Okay. One question by way of comment is we want to know whether there is interface between the Ministry of Local Government and the Local Government Service Commission, because many councils have remained with positions that are unfilled for a long time, and therefore it's affecting implementation of Constituency Development Fund. We are also thinking that we are asking you whether your ministry is thinking of creating a fund for training members of staff in the councils. By my substantive question is that you've talked highly of the convention of the local government service, the local government equalization fund, and you are saying that it's going to solve most of the problems, the financial challenges that the councils are faced with. I'm not too sure whether you've carried out an analysis of whether the local government, the local equalization fund is adequate to really fund the kind of things that you have postulated in your report. But we feel that I think the most important thing here, well, as far as local government is concerned, is to help the local authorities to broaden their revenue base, so that we can apply the principle of subsidiarity. They are responsible for what they are generating. I don't know what your comment is in terms of adequacy of the local government equalization fund as far as the functions of local authorities are concerned. Otherwise, there will just be relying on the
Honorable
constituency
Samakai,
development fund.
please be brief. Thank you. Honorable Chitotela.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Chair, for your discretion that I can ask 2 questions. It will be up to you to assign the witness whether to answer one or both.
Honorable, only one question, please, so that we manage the time.
Okay, I'll pose 2. It will be up to you to ask him 1 or 2 to answer. And very brief, the witness, thank you. On your page number 4, you are stating that the local government equalization fund has been increased, and in the budget is saying it is going to enhance the remuneration of councillors, council chairpersons as mayors. I want you to confirm whether you are bringing the act for amendment so that the councillors can be addressed on the monthly salary that and council chairpersons as mayors that who will allow them to qualify for at least even 25 or 30 or 50% graduate after they have served a term of 5 years, because as you may be aware, they are very critical tool in the delivery of development, including the ward development committees. The last one is on CDF. I am very grateful, Chair, that the witness on page number 5 has clearly stated, I don't want to bring in person, there are constituencies that could have utilized fully the 2022, and your office did even approve the procurement of 2023. But to date, those constituencies have not been funded. For example, Pambashe constituency. I'm very happy that in your preamble, though you have not written it, you are saying you are pushing that where projects are approved, those constituencies must be funded even before they make returns. But we have a case like Pambashe where even returns have been made in August this year, or projects approved for 2023, and they are not fully funded. What is the constraint that has made Pambashe to suffer as though it has not submitted fully? I thank you, Chair.
Honorable Smushi.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the CDF project, I think, has brought a lot of pressure to the local authority in terms of their work. This is despite the fact that CDF is not the only undertaking that local authorities do carry out. Now, my question is, why isn't the ministry thinking of introducing a project unit to be called the CDF project unit within the local authority to be dedicated specifically to CDF activities, so that we see efficiency and effectiveness in the manner in which the CDF is implemented?
Thank you. Let's take the other one from Honorable Nkulukusa. I'll explain why. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just I saw yesterday you said it's just declaring interest, but not necessarily for anything. My colleague Miyambango were in the same class.
Okay.
From grade 8 to grade 12.
Okay.
What do you mean it's not fair? Very fair. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Mine is actually sort of a rider on what Honorable Smusha has said. Usually when you are implementing such a very important strategic intent, such as CDF, we say there are 3 components that really make it succeed. Number 1 is the resources, which I believe is being provided very well. Number 2 is the skilled human capital, which I feel really we need to, I doubt that we have it there. Like he has said, it would have been maybe better to increase more, especially finance department, engineering department, which is planning and engineering, as well as the procurement department, because we are seeing these procurement delays. Otherwise, the success. Then number 3 is the deployment of necessary technology. Right now, we don't have enough technology to really ensure that just going by the dashboard, you can see the consumption of CDF and also the issue of how the monies are being utilized, who are the beneficiaries, can they benefit twice or things like that. So I just wanted to get your point. How are you ensuring that these 3 core values or core features that define success are being implemented? And maybe just a comment, Chair, on the issues of what development committees, really they need incentivization as well. They lack resources, movement is a challenge. Even taking of documentation to the councils, they need to use their own resources. What are we doing to ensure that the ward development committees as well are incentivized? Thank you very much.
Okay, so PS, we have 4 questions from Honorable Samakai. Kindly respond on the issue of, as to whether the equalization fund will be adequate to fund your so many programs. Then from Honorable Chitotela, we can comment on the issue of the increase of funds. These funds now, are they going to be adequate to remunerate the councillors? You can respond to that. And also Honorable Simushi had one and Honorable Nkrusa one. You can respond in that order. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Equalization fund, is it going to be adequate given that there are a number of activities that we have earmarked for its utilization? The answer is a yes and no. Resources are always and will always be scarce. So it's just a question of how we utilize the resources. So the perspective that we are presenting is that with the increase by slightly over 8% in terms of the quantum, and with the relaxation or the proposed relaxation, that is not restricting usage for recurrent expenditure to 80% but taking it to 100%, we are of the view that there will be a little bit more resources available to address some of the challenges that the local authorities are facing. You are aware that a number of local authorities, actually the reason they have arrears is that they're only able to pay salaries net as opposed to gross. So with this relaxation, it is our anticipation that some of the local authorities will begin to graduate and they'll be able to pay salaries gross. That is, as and when they pay the salaries, they'll also be able to make the necessary statutory contributions. And of course, as we go on, we'll continue putting in place interventions to ensure that local authorities operate at the level that we desire them to operate at. Remember, as a country, we have said we are going the decentralization route, so we have limited options indeed, but to make the local governance system work, because those are the ones who will be driving the developmental agenda for this country, Chair. Pambashe constituency, funding has been denied funding. Chair, I wish that I could be given more detail in terms of what the denial of funding is for the constituency, but from our records, Chair, Pambashe constituency is amongst the many constituencies in Zambia which for 2023 have received up to 7.7 million in terms of CDF funding. And I'm in regular touch with the council treasurers and the council secretaries, and none of them have reported to me to say that they've failed to execute a project because there is no money which is available. I think the challenge that we've had is that people were not aware of procedures. So you'd find that there were some who were seated to saying we cannot go on to advertise the tender to procure earth-moving equipment, as an example, before we have money sitting in the bank. But the position is that for as long as the budget has been approved by you, honorable members of parliament, that is adequate to indicate, to say the resources are available. So I would really be interested to know if there's a constituency in this country where they have failed to pay a supplier because there's no money in the bank, or they failed to indeed procure because the money is not available. I've not seen any, because I checked the bank balances and all of them have got money. And may I also mention to say that government, through the Ministry of Finance, has given an undertaking to say the entire 2023 CDF budget will be funded. The way the 2022 budget was financed, it's a similar thing which will happen to the 2023 CDF budget. CDF project unit, is it, do we see the need to have a project unit set up? I think as we move forward, I did mention to say that we need to enhance management.
I'll wait first. We can continue.
We need to enhance management, and that is exactly what we are doing. You may call it a CDF project unit. We may give it a different name, but the bottom line is we need to manage the resources properly, and that is exactly what we are doing. I also did mention to say that we have, under the Zambia Devolution Support Program, a program which is deliberately targeted at improving capacity of local authorities, and this is all in a quest to ensure that we deliver and deliver quite effectively. You will note that within that particular project, it particularly requires that we have a certain skill set and officers in place at a very minimum in the local authorities. So this is something which is being looked at. The aspect of incentives to WDC's chair is something which has been spoken of, and I think was even debated. I suppose that if my memory serves me right, there was even a motion raised, but it requires a lot of resources, and it is also premised on the law. The law currently stipulates that members of the WDCs are volunteers, and therefore, when you are volunteering your time. It's a contribution that you are making towards the cause of the area that you are residing in. Needless to mention that as a ministry, we've instructed local authorities to ensure that where it is practical, they must facilitate stationery, they must facilitate picking up of documents or information so that we continue delivering for the people of our country. In terms of interface between ourselves and the Service Commission, yes, there is an interface between our ministry and the Local Government Service Commission, because we cannot afford to work in isolation. So when we receive information of these gaps, either way, we collaborate so that we address the situation. Chair, question of deployment of technology is a given. When resources are available, it will be deployed. I did mention to say that we will leverage on ICT. I can actually mention to say that as a ministry, as of end of September, we had worked on websites for over 77 local authorities. And our target is to see to it that we cover all the 116 local authorities. I can also mention that we are working in close collaboration with our colleagues from Smart Zambia, who are also putting in place mechanisms to ensure that a number of local authorities where connectivity is poor can be facilitated so that they are connected to the government-wide area network. This is all in a quest of leveraging on ICT so that we deliver a bit more efficiently as a team. Chair, I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Mijelo, Honorable Dr. Kalila.
Point of order, Chair.
I'll come to you. We'll take, don't worry, Honorable. You have already given me notice, so I'm aware. Honorable Dr. Kalila, Honorable Kambita, and Honorable Mabumba, in that order. Honorable Mijelo.
Thank you very much, Chair. PS and your team, we thank you very much for that submission. Yeah, PS, you've talked about the challenges on absorption rate of CDF fund. I read this one is a very huge challenge because a lot of councils, especially I'll give example of Monze Council or councils, those councils with more than one constituencies, I think it's a huge challenge. Yeah, is there a way you can help a PS under your ministry that those districts with more than one constituents, that maybe they are given sub-councils so that they can have, okay, officers who will be working there on the ground to speed up development. Otherwise, at the rate we are moving, especially at Monze district, it's a huge challenge. And Monze district is the biggest in Southern Province. And most of the councils there, you find that those with one district, one constituency, they are very quick to absorb the money. But for us with 3 constituencies, and you find maybe there are just 3 officers or 2 officers in those offices, it is a huge challenge. And you can approve a project today, it will take you maybe 3-4 months for it to be implemented, even 5 months. Money will be there sitting, but nothing is moving. I don't know how best you can help us on that one. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honorable Dr. Kalila.
So thank you very much, Chairman Chatila. The first one is just to re-echo the sentiments of my colleagues, Honorable Simushi, and also Honorable Samakai, and also Honorable Mwabashike, on the fact that we need to improve the management of the CDF. Currently, if you notice, PS, it is administered across several departments. You have some components, the Director of Works, the Socio-Economic Planner, the DPO, the Council Secretary, the Treasurer, and so on and so forth, meaning that as we go along, I agree with you, we need to have a bit of more focus in terms with a unit or a directorate of CDF, or whatever we shall call it. I think there's merit into that. I just wanted to support that, and I'm happy to hear you acknowledge that we really need to create some form of a focus department, that because the effect of this, of not doing that, is that the entire council has gone to sleep. They're just dealing with CDF now, as Honorable Smusha said. Other sectors are beginning to suffer: garbage collection, generally service delivery. It may not be the case in here in the urban centers, but in the rural areas we are seeing that, you know, so we really need to do that. So coming to my question, it is just something that I need an answer from you. We have noticed with sadness, sir, that the CDF implementation, although of course the face of it is the members of parliament, and we have done our part. We go for CDF meetings, we approve, we do everything, then we hand over to the implementers. Then we come here to take us 4 or 5 months before the implementers do a next step. Why? Most of the time they are never in their offices. You see, in my council, for example, I complained even to the other PS, Nicholas Piri, at some point. They are always out in Livingstone. One moment they're in Chipata, or they're in Chalimbana. Last week they just came back from Livingstone. I went over the weekend to address them specifically of this issue. I've learned today they've gone to Mongo, almost all of them. Now, it is making it very difficult, and the blame comes to us, that the absorption rates are low, these MPs are not doing this, but it's them. So why do they keep moving? There's even a moratorium, which they are not respecting again. And when I tried to question them, they said, no, but the same meeting is opened by the PS. Us, we don't generate these meetings ourselves. They are generated by the PLOGO, they're generated by the ministry, so you go and blame the people who call us. Is there a mechanism, PS, that we can do to ensure that they don't all move at the same time? Or even if one moves, what I know in management, work should not suffer. If Mwabashike's MD moves, he should prepare for the work to continue. His other managers should be able to carry forward with the work. Currently, this needs to be addressed. I don't know what your view is on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Kambita.
As for me, definitely I would like to pay some accolades to the Permanent Secretary for making that very valuable observation in terms of, it's not really the burn rate that matters, but implementation of these projects. Because somehow, politically, we've gotten sentiments even from high-ranking officials make pronouncements maybe on the floor of the House like it's the MP who is delaying that these funds should be utilized for their intended purpose. And yet the MP's job begins and ends with, of course, begins with allocation. CDF committee sits, and we have identified what development committees wish to implement in each one of those wards. And the approval process is done with my presence. And once that is done, we hand over now to our secretariat, you, the councils, to implement what we had agreed. Mine is to come and monitor what has been agreed. Now you find statements have been made that you don't want to spend that money. No. And yet we're forgetting that the procurement processes are elaborate. And no one wants to find themselves in problems. You are also right, because you, as controlling officer, will be appearing before the committee on local government accounts to explain things, why procedure was not followed. So procedures are there. But now, my question around the whole of this thing, realizing that the process of procurement and to have a tangible project is lengthy like that, what measures are being taken in collaboration with ZPPA, who seem to be so stuck in whatever rules have been written in books, and no one wants to float those rules? So what is being done between yourselves and other government institutions in order to ensure that these procurement processes are not that lengthy? Because that's what is taking. Yellow metal equipment were allocated in January. This is the October. I can't see a grader in Zambezi East. So those are the issues. So what is being done in order to ensure that this money is utilized?
Okay, Honorable Mumba.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and PS and your team, for me, if I listen from what my colleagues, the various questions that have come from my colleagues, it points me to one thing that you also alluded to, and which we are aware. Whichever terminology you use, either decentralization, devolution of powers, other scholars have argued that a decentralization system should have been implemented before probably this financial transfer or financial decentralization, as well as the human capital. What would be your view on those people who say that? Because when I look at all these issues that we have, just like my colleagues have said, we allocated money to buy equipment. I don't know whether it was last year. We had a meeting towards in the last quarter of last year. Up to now, me, I've never seen anything. So I don't know whether it is the man which is not there. I don't know whether it is a council. So don't you think that your ministry should provide leadership in ensuring that this devolution of powers should be anchored on a system to the extent that most of the challenges that we are facing in our various constituencies and districts, I guess, to a large extent, would be probably resolved if we have got a complete decentralization so that we are able to make decisions, all of us at that local level, without having to refer maybe to the PLGO in the province or to anybody else. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. PS will respond to those, but also so that we clear the area when there was a question from Honorable Chitotela on the issue of the condition of service for the councillors and also the ward development committees. So maybe we'll start with that one, then you respond to these four.
Thank you very much, Chair. My apologies that I missed the question on emoluments or conditions of service for councillors. I think your question, Honourable Member of Parliament, was looking at whether we will be in a position to pay gratuity and other such related conditions of service. Chair, that is a policy position. It is above me. The only thing I can confirm is that for the year 2024, councillors will be given an increment in terms of what they are earning. Their allowance will be increased upwards. That's the only thing that I can speak to at the moment. In terms of those other aspects, it is more of a policy position, and it's beyond me, Chair.
Thank you.
Procurement processes with ZP and other government ministries. What are we doing to resolve those issues? Because there's been note to say that at times a procurement process can take even up to 1 year. So as government generally, we have received these concerns, and there is a proposal to review the ZPPA Act to make it a bit more responsive without really taking away the intention of the ZPPA Act. As you may imagine and appreciate, what we are dealing with are public resources, and public resources have to be accounted for properly. So, but there is a move to amend the ZPPA Act to make it a bit more responsive in terms of reducing the number of times. And I think it's also important to note that sometimes there are peculiar situations which result in protracted delays, where, for instance, when a process is done with and the notification to award is issued, one of the bidders then comes in to put in an objection. That tends to lengthen the time even more. So there's nothing we can do about that, because it is provided for by the law, and that's what public accountability and transparency entails. So we are losing time on one hand, but in terms of accountability and transparency, we remain accountable and transparent to the public, because these are public resources which we are utilizing. The suggestion of having sub-councils for constituencies or for districts that have more than one constituency, it also requires resources. But at the end of the day, like I mentioned much earlier, it's all about management. For instance, I'll give an example of Lusaka, that each constituency has been assigned a socio-economic planner to deal with the needs of that particular constituency, so that we do not have protracted or unnecessary delays. And for Monze Central, or rather for Monze, Bwengwa in particular, I am aware that for Monze Central and Bwengwa, the absorption rate is very, very high. And perhaps we should have been an example in terms of absorption. But like I said earlier on, we can't use absorption as a benchmark of measuring performance, because the absorption rate may be high because they decided to buy 3 pieces of equipment which were costing 8-10 million, and the money all went out at once, whereas the other constituencies could have 12 tenders running for construction of 1x3 classroom blocks, which are all have probably all gone through the evaluation stage, and they are waiting for clearance of contracts with the Attorney General. And of course, the pace of work by the contractors varies from place to place. So like I said, I still reiterate my earlier position to say that absorption should not be the basis of measuring performance. We should look at the commitment, how much of the resources which have been made available to us have been committed for the year. I think that is what is critical. That is why even as a ministry, we had actually issued a directive to the effect that 2024 projects submission should have ended by now. We actually did give out that notice sometime in July, August, or thereabout, to the effect that submissions need to be made so that we plan ahead. We need to reach a situation where we have plans waiting for execution, as opposed to what has been obtaining, where we've got money waiting to be utilized. That can sometimes be a bit suboptimal in terms of utilization of resources. So planning becomes very paramount, and that is what we are planning. We are encouraging. So we need to plan and plan ahead so that we do not have these challenges. In my submission, I mentioned aspects of having integrated development plans, which will speak to the developmental needs of the district and therefore the developmental needs of constituencies. And in terms of prioritization, it will become a bit more easier for members of the WDCs and indeed members of the Constituency Development Fund Committee to prioritize, in that a plan would have already been put in place, which would have been birthed as a result of a consultative process with members of parliament, with civic leaders, with members of civil society, church, chiefs, generally all members of a community. So that's why we're encouraging planning, Chair. I'm trying to look at my questions. I think I've dealt with a question from the Honorable Kasauta.
So the one from Honorable Dr. Kalila is about your officers being ever present in workshops, and not in the offices.
Chair, I was trying to avoid that question because I stand accused to say I'm the one who opens those seminars and workshops despite having a moratorium. So I thought that the chair would excuse me from defending myself in front of the multitude of people. Chair, needless to say that the local authorities, I think one of the meetings you referred to, I was in Livingstone recently, and I did officiate at a meeting where we invited principal officers and internal auditors for them to understand their distinct roles or their roles and responsibilities when it comes to service delivery. So a number of meetings that are called for are necessary in my view, but at times the challenge that we may face is that the officers may not communicate to say this is what we are going for. I'm also aware that we have a number of meetings which are lined up in which we want to improve the knowledge base and understanding and utilization of the electronic government procurement system. It is necessary that we train our officers, the principal officers particularly, because they are the supervisors, so they cannot supervise what they do not know. But otherwise, unnecessary travel, even from my office, because I am the controlling officer, it is my responsibility to ensure that resources are utilized properly, and resources include time. If people want to travel and the travel is unnecessary, I'll stop it. And the only reason you do not hear about it, it is because when I stop it, it is not a matter of public position. But when they do travel, it is apparent because they are not in the office. But I think the important point for me to take from the question or submission from Dr. Kalila is that when my officers are not in the office, work must not stall. So I'll take that submission, Chair, and I will impress it upon my officers to ensure that when they are not in the office must function. I'm sure that when the PS in charge of administration at the Ministry of Local Government is not in the office, I do not carry the office with me. The office remains at the office, and activities still continue being executed. And that is the same expectation that I have with my officers. So I've taken note of that, and where there are such occurrences, we'll certainly redress them by engagement. And if need be, Chair, I've repeatedly mentioned this to say we are all employed to work, and if people are not working, punitive action is usually taken against them. And you will probably learn through the Local Government Service Commission to say that some officers who've not been doing their work properly, some of them, Chair, have been demoted for failure to perform their functions. So for as long as we're employed to do our work, we must do it. If we're not doing it, we must suffer or pay the price for not doing our work, Chair. I submit, Chair.
There was one question from Honorable Mabumba. I don't know whether we were tempted to. The issue of decentralization, whether devolution. Did you, Honorable Mabumba? It wasn't.
Thank you, Chair. The question of what my opinion is on which must come first,
yes.
Whether the policy of decentralization or fiscal decentralization. For me, Chair, it is neither here nor there. It's just a question of the commitments that we have as a team. If we are all committed to do our work, we can accomplish it, whether we start by sensitizing the public on the decentralization policy and then we begin to transfer functions slowly. That's really at the end of the day does not pose a big challenge. The issue is, as a country, we are decentralizing, and that's where we're moving to. And there's also empirical evidence to suggest that decentralization, actually, when it comes to decision making, results in better decisions. If I go into all the 156 constituencies, some of the decisions that were taken by members in the particular constituencies would not have been taken by my team here, because our knowledge of Lukulu constituency is limited. We don't know how the people of Sikongo live. I may know because I have an opportunity to have an encounter with the MP for Sikongo to say he needs a bridge at a particular point, but without that interaction with the Member of Parliament, I will not know that information. But for the people who reside in these particular areas, they will know what they require, or what their needs are, as compared to those of us who reside in Lusaka or Lusaka Central, Kabwata constituency. You know, we might be making decisions based on what we see in Kabwata. So decentralization is the way to go, because it will result in efficiency when it comes to decision making, and it will also result in decisions that pinpoint the particular challenges of the localities that people are facing in a particular constituency. Chair, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Swala, the last one.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Your mic, please.
Sorry. Since I'm the last chair,
Sure.
I have a leeway for a comment.
No comment, sir. One question, we are out of...
Yes, indeed, Chair. Don't worry, we are around. Chair, the PS, I would like to hear your comment, especially that you are now assuring us that local government equalization fund will be 100%. Are we going to see a situation where now we'll see some of these movements, some of the operations of the council stop being funded from CDF? I'm asking this because there has been a number of correspondence when some of the operations of the council use money from the CDF. And I ask this also as a rider, maybe just to qualify Honorable Nkulukasa's question on the operations of the Ward Development Committee. My very honest submission here is that I think we have to be fair to the PS. I know you've answered, but the operations of the Ward Development Committee, in my view, we should not take them the way you've mentioned as being voluntary. These people, I'll give you an example, in a rural constituency like myself, and I'm sure for so many other members, they travel long distances to come and meet. And they do not meet so regularly that we can fail to afford to give them some little allowance, to even make them maybe mend their bicycles as they are traveling, or just something to get food on the way. You imagine somebody traveling 40, 50 kilometers to attend a World Development Committee with these poverty levels. Honestly, we must do something, and there is no way we can be giving an allowance of 150 to CDF committee members. You forget about World Development Committee. I will tell you, we are beating the whole aim of the existence of this committee, because in certain cases, only the chairman will sit and decide. And therefore, you are depriving the comments or the participation of the others coming from the various zones in a ward like you know it.
Okay.
And very finally, the PS.
Honorable Stwala.
Chair, just a minute, it's correlated.
Okay.
Yes, and very, very briefly. The MP will go and campaign, will come and sit on the CDF committee, approve projects based on the campaign promises for the same government, supervise. At the end of the day, we see now these fights between the MP and the council chairman, in some cases even DCs. I want to hear your very honest opinion. What is really this thing bringing this animosity, which you cannot cure as Minister of Local Government? How do I start something and at the end of the day, we even see officers writing correspondence to say MP should not even be part of this? Honestly, what is all this about working in the same government? Your comment, PS. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you respond to that, PS?
Thank you very much, Chair. For the one on the WDC's operations, I'll take that as a comment, Chair. Fights between members of parliament, district commissioners, council chairpersons. What is the ministry doing about it? Council chairpersons stroke mayors, what is the ministry doing about it? It's a very difficult question for me to answer, given the fact that these are stemming from individual behaviors. I see no reason, Chair, myself, why a council chairperson or a district commissioner must pick a fight with a member of parliament or vice versa, because they all have distinct roles, they all have distinct responsibilities. If the objective is to save the people of Kaoma or Mwansabombwe, I don't see a reason why people who are all bent on saving the people must fight. That's why I'm saying some of the issues, because they border on personalities and perhaps ambitions or desires, you know, they become difficult to regulate. So it is something which we will continue to talk about, and for those, for instances where we hear of an event, we'll take it upon ourselves at individual level to speak to the people who are involved in the fight. I'm wondering why there are no fights between members of parliament and permanent secretaries. Yet, from a description point of view, a district commissioner is a public officer just like myself. So I really wonder why we end up having these fights. But at the end of the day, I said it is probably bordered around our individual ambitions. Unfortunately, we cannot legislate against such. And for the question of letters being written. I must mention here, Chair, that indeed there are letters. There was one which actually indicated to say members of parliament are excluded from, or it insinuated that members of parliament are excluded from monitoring of CDF projects. Then a second one was written to indicate that the members of parliament are included in CDF projects. So that is the position. The current position is that members of parliament are included and actually do play a very critical role when it comes to CDF project implementation. Even when you look at the name at the moment, Constituency Development Fund suggests that the representative of the people there is a member of parliament who was elected by universal suffrage. So it follows that they must have a role to play. And this is not to the exclusion of other members of society, Chair. I'm trying to look at, I think I'm done, Chair.
Yeah, the final one, the PS, and we will take you back to Honorable Gasauta's question over the issue of sub-councils. You have indicated that is a bit costly and understood. So now, and we have given a good example at the same time where we have said, for example, Lusaka district, you have given to each constituency these social economic planners. Now, immediately you do that, you know, it's like you're in a polygamy status. You have this. The same with maybe Monze district. The same with maybe Kitwe district. You have given Lusaka district socio-economic planners for each constituency. And me, as someone who is in Kitwe, will start crying for why has my dad not done the same. So basically my question is, if you cannot go for the issue of the sub-councils, why, for example, can't you give us maybe 2 direct works at maybe Monze district, you know, and maybe socio-economic planner, so that just the work is enhanced. I know it's still a cost, but not as high as it would be if you had the sub-councils. Just considering it to enhance those key critical areas where you give such kind of employees, maybe the director of works, maybe instead of 1 you have 2, so that then enhance their work. Is that something which you may want to consider? PS? I'm not really ignoring you. There's a structure which we did there, in terms of the questions, and this is the last one. PS, we can respond to that one.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think it's really, at the end of the day, it's a question of human resources who are available at a local authority. Then we also need to look at the establishment at the local authority. And I think this takes me to the question which was raised much earlier by Honorable Samakai, to say do we interface between ourselves and the Local Government Service Commission. I think these are areas where we will be having an interface. Where we see a gap, we definitely need to address it. I'm aware that a council like a city council like Ndola, or indeed Kitwe, may actually have a similar scenario that is obtaining in Lusaka. You know, regrettably, I may not have a lot of information on my village, Monze, because I'm afraid that the Honorable Kalila will accuse me of paying attention on where I come from. But behind the scenes, Chair, I can make a statement that we will look at it. Yes, I'm aware Monze has 3 constituencies and have in excess of 20, I think 20 wards. There should be 28 wards. So that's quite a huge chunk. So we'll look at the structure and see how we shall enhance the operations. Chair, I did make a declaration to say that's my village, or those are my villages. I'm a Monze person.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. I think all of members, we need to end here. PS and your team, thank you very much for coming. You have noted we have taken a bit more time on you because local government is very critical. So thank you very much for coming through. Couple of the laws of Zambia in terms of the immunity, that which was given to everyone. Who also end here. Do enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
I thank you for having me, Chair.
Thank you.
There were 59,439 registered cashew nut farmers in Western Province.
The situation as it is, I'm incapacitated.
The good people of Petauke, especially in Nika 1, where we don't have water.